Welcome back, and now we are moving on to video number 8. Can you say 8?
Hate.
Hey, there's no room for haters or haterade, my friend. This is
I'm
all
saying it like
love.
French Canadians would say hate instead of eight. They like to put
8 o'clock.
H's. Yeah, it's hate.
Uh, yeah, but there's no hate here. It's all love for you, our viewer, and we hope you're enjoying it so far. Now, this topic, this question, is quite possibly the most important when it comes to actually selling your book and getting into a lot of people's hands. And the question is, how will you generate buzz before the launch? It's one thing to launch your book and hope for sales to come in, but before you launch, there's a lot you can do to set yourself up for success. And so we want to talk about 4 major areas here that you can look at to give yourself a good chance at success. So let's first just talk at a high level, Brad, about some general sort of pre-launch action items, things that everybody will want to consider. Not not that every single action item we assign here that we suggest is going to be relevant for everybody, but there's some general things that people can do in their pre-launch to at least set themselves up to have a good start.
I think no matter what, you've got to consider building a list. If you want to, especially if you want your book to hit the bestseller list, you're going to need to build. You're going to need to start building a group of people up that want your book, or that will at least be interested in your book before you launch it. And this process can take months or years if you want it to. I don't think there's really a wrong way of doing this, but I think that you want to create that buzz, and you want to know when you're doing all this, you want to know what your launch date is. You want to know a lot of this kind of stuff well in advance. You don't want to be guessing along the way. You want the first time someone opts into your funnel, your pre-launch funnel that we're going to talk about, you want to know when your book launch date is. And you want to be reminding them of that in every communication that you have with them
Right.
on the
And
high level.
and, and to be fair, your pre-launch probably had a shorter lead time, shorter window, and was still very successful compared to some other people because you said some people might want to take years doing it. You did spend years building a bit of a profile in the business. People already knew who you were, and I think that's an important distinction because you can still have a successful book. You can still do a successful book launch and become a bestseller, even if you didn't have people who knew about you ahead of time in your situation. And I think you did a lot in your world or in your specific example to make yourself known to people who never knew you anyways. So I think, like you talked about, having that list or building a list from scratch will work for anybody. But at the same time, you might need to exercise a little bit of patience here, and that might, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, or let me know if you agree or not. That might determine your launch date. If you have a book that you're almost completed, or maybe you have a ghostwriter finishing it for you right now based on our recommendations, and you're looking into the future saying, when can I launch this thing? If you don't have a blog, you don't have a platform where people already knew who you were, you might want to give yourself a little bit of extra time to build that list and to engage with that list and get to know those people, and maybe have a chance for it to go viral before you launch. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so let's go into that then. You talked about setting up the funnel. How I know a big part of your strategy was it wasn't just list building where it was like sign up now and I'll give you a free report. That's not the way you did your list building. That's not the way you did your pre-book launch list at all, is it?
No, I offered something that was provocative, and I think everyone who does this is going to have a different way of doing this, and I think you've got to think about what that is. And for me, I wanted to do something that was provocative that may go viral, and viral is something that people love to use it as a buzzword, but in my opinion, it's viral is something you hope for. It's not something that you create. You do your best to create something viral, and then you hope that it that everyone else loves it enough to go viral. And I've never really had anything go extremely viral. I've had a few things go sort of semi-viral. Um, so we created a document called 11 Smart Successful Potheads, and this was, we talked about Richard Branson and Sergey Brin and Steve Jobs and, sort of the more famous uh, billionaires that have admitted to smoking pot either regularly or occasionally or recreationally or, at a younger age or whatever it might be. And the whole idea, there was a couple of reasons why I took this particular road, and some of them made some of them. I'm not going to say that I was smart enough to think that I thought of all of this stuff in advance, but I'm telling you kind of half what I thought in advance and half what I figured out halfway through doing it. The idea behind it was to create, because with my audience, now everyone's audience is going to be different, but in my audience, we suffer from an identity crisis, right? I was marketing to potheads, remember? So our identity crisis is that we are seen in a negative light. People who smoke pot are often, there's a stereotype of stay at home, mom's basement, no job, no ambition, no drive, all of that kind of stuff. Those are the kind of character traits that we're used to seeing.
Lazy potheads.
In anti-drug commercials and all this kind of stuff. And so I wanted to flip that around, and I wanted to give people who enjoyed pot
you're the rallying
something
voice.
that they could something that they could use and promote to their friends as a way to say, hey, it's not all stupid dummies in their mom's basement like you see in the stoner movies and all that kind of stuff. It's, there are a lot of high functioning entrepreneurs. There are a lot of people who enjoy marijuana and also are successful. And that one doesn't precipitate the other in either way. It doesn't make you successful, but it also doesn't make you lazy. You're either lazy and unmotivated, or you're motivated and successful. And whether you drink or smoke pot or smoke cigarettes or snort coke or shoot heroin, I don't care what it is that you do. That doesn't. I don't believe anyway. Most of those things aren't going to take away from one or the other. You're either gonna be lazy because you're lazy, or you're going to be driven because you're driven. And that was kind of the message I wanted to share. And then the other thing that it did, which was kind of a secondary thing, and I didn't see this in advance, although a copywriter pointed it out to me and said, this was very smart on your part. And I kind of nodded my head like, yes, I planned it that way, but I didn't really. He said to me that what you did here was that you aligned yourself with all of these very successful people. And by being the conduit of this information, you've actually positioned yourself with these people. And your audience now sees you as one of them. And I didn't really think of it. It's not something that I had planned or had thought about, but it did kind of work well. It helped to elevate a bit of authority for me to kind of associate myself with that. So maybe for you, that is talking about a big brand, or that's talking about other people like I did, or maybe it's talking about aligning yourself with something big. In other words,
yeah, well, you see that all the time with professional high paid speakers, and their bios always say something to the effect of, he's was the keynote speaker at Coca-Cola's convention, and they rhyme off all these different gigs they had, aligning them. So they don't work for those companies. They did one gig with them, but oh, this guy was good enough for Coca-Cola. Damn, like I got to work with this guy. And
yes.
Even if it was just like one small division of Coca-Cola's department in some small state or whatever, it's still that brand, that corporation they can align themselves with, and it has this subconscious effect. So I hear what you're saying. That's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And so I guess really the takeaway here for you watching is looking at Brad's example, which I love the pod. You were the motivational speaker to the podheads, but you made them look at their lives in a totally different way. It's almost like you gave them permission to think and feel in a new way, and that made an emotional connection that totally made them want to buy your book. How can you make your audience do something similar? How can you say something in a different way or present something in a different way? That it may be just general information like those. I'm sure there were articles about Richard Branson having to admitted smoking pot, but you took that information and spun it in a way that served you and made your audience feel really awesome, and then they related that feeling of awesome back to your book. And and then of course you had, kind of tying back to our main point here, which is how are you going to generate buzz before the launch, is you tied that all back into your list strategy, which was not just building the list, but engaging with that list often, sending them great information. And also, maybe you want to touch on this, you would send updates all the time, and a lot of those updates were, P.S. book's coming out on this date. P.S. here's a calendar invite. That worked pretty well
Yeah.
for you, didn't it?
Yeah, I did a lot of that stuff when I as I continued to mail the list, I sent them more tangible content, more stuff. And through that process, yeah, I constantly reminded them of the book launch date, told them that I wanted them to buy it, hyped it up, mentioned things that I was talking about in my book along the way, that kind of stuff. All very important. The other thing that I want to mention about that piece of content is that I also made it very easy to share on Facebook and Twitter. I made it, and I did it in such a way where if you shared it on Facebook, I would get you to go through my own sort of opt-in funnel and join my list. And I got a lot of people sharing that because they wanted to share it. They wanted their friends to see, hey, look at this. And so think about, again, you can't force virility. You can't make something viral, but at the same time, you can provide all the components to make it easier for it to happen. Right? If there's a share button there, it's a lot easier for me than if I have to copy your URL and go to Twitter or Facebook. Right? I really have to like it if I'm going to go through those extra steps. So make it simple for me. Make it so easy that I just do it because it's easy to do. And for you, that could be something different. It could be a document. It could be a lot of the clients we've worked with, we've worked on testing and surveys. Right? Like, what's your whatever score? Right? Like imagine we go back to the how to make your neighbor's wife jealous or whatever. How do you make your neighbor jealous or whatever it is, right? That kind of a thing. You could have a test where people fill out a questionnaire on your website, and based on the multiple choice answers that they choose, there's a scoring that takes place, and based on the score, they're given some type of label. Right, and that label could be signified by a cheap cartoon that you have drawn up to describe the type of person that they are, or whatever it might be. There's a number of different ways you can do this kind of stuff, and social network people love this stuff. They eat it up. They love to take short surveys that describe them as a particular type of person and allows them to post that on Facebook. That is I see people doing that all day long, all the time. There's
I
one
was
going
graded
around right
as
now.
a,
It's
yeah,
like,
I got a B minus on this personality test. What did you get?
yeah, or like, there's one right now that's like, how hipster are you or something, right? It's
Yeah.
like, have you seen this one? It's going around. It's like, I'm 86% hipster, and it's got like a picture of a guy in the summer with a a winter toque on his head, and he's got like all these different, or I guess toque is a Canadian word, isn't it? He's got like a winter hat on, like a and having that imagery to go with it, and having like a humorous write-up about that particular personality type that might describe you, makes it more fun and more interactive, because you've answered some questions and it's revealed some stuff about you that to be true. You'll share that stuff. And that's it's easy to talk about, but it is actually a pretty simple exercise to go through. It doesn't have to be some long 50 question process. It could be 4 questions. It could be 7. It could be 20. It could be, it doesn't have to be a huge number, but something fun for people that makes them want to share that. And then people see, oh, Justin got this score. What am I going to get if I take the test, right? And that's that's kind of giving you all the things that you could possibly do to make something viral. And of course, at the end of the test, they have to give you their name and email address, or they have to connect with Facebook or something to get the result. And when they connect with Facebook, you're getting their information, so they're going on your list, and you're able to now post those results.
And
to
the
their
chances
wall.
of them actually connecting are really high now, because they're invested in that questionnaire. They spent the time, so it's like, I already spent the
Yeah.
time. I'm getting this answer, so yeah, I'll give them my email or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's a great point. And just to kind of close this point off, a lot of the stuff we're talking about here feeds into something a little bit bigger, a bigger concept, which is the idea of personal branding. And in most cases, if you want to publish a book and you want to be the whole DIY bestseller guy or girl, um, most of this time we're talking about somebody who's going to be personally branded. Obviously, you don't have to do it under your own name, but our examples are all citing personal branding. So, Brad, I wanted to quickly touch on that. There's a lot of things you can do for personal branding, and this product is actually going to include a copy of Brad's personal branding report, which I highly recommend you read through that. It's just a quick read, but it's going to give you some great suggestions on how to position yourself in your own personal brand. Uh, but even one of the first questions I asked you in this video, Brad, was the fact that your pre-launch lead time was a lot shorter than it might be for other people because you have been personally branding for years, and that included things like the way you interact on Twitter, having a video blog, and so on. What are some things people can do beyond what you say in your report? Maybe we can just quickly gloss over some of the ideas now. What are some things people can do to strengthen their personal brand so that it ties into having a really successful pre-launch?
I think it's important that people know you, the person, the author of the book. Whether that's through videos or through photos or other, those are really the two top ways you can get yourself out there. Is more photos of yourself, good quality professional photos of yourself, and more videos of you, because people want to feel like they know you to a point where they like you. If they like you, they'll buy stuff from you, because if they like you, chances are it's because they're like you. We like the people who are like us, right? We don't like people who aren't like us. So, I bring my own personality to my videos. I do things my own way, and I create a lot of content that has me in it, so that people get to know my voice, my name, my face, my message. And the more of it they get, the easier it is to buy something from me. People sometimes think that you can give too much of yourself and then nobody's interested. I found it to be the opposite.
It's the opposite for sure.
If you put a lot out there, more people will be interested.
Yeah.
Because not everybody sees everything. You, as the creator, see everything you create and think to yourself, well, why is somebody going to want me to talk about being an author again? Yeah. Because they didn't see the last one that you did.
Yeah, and in reality, they maybe saw 10% of it, and of that 10%, they probably only gave 50% of their attention to, because they had 50 other things on the go while they were reading that piece of content or watching they got halfway through your blog video that you spent a week writing or a week shooting. And we see this all, like you and I we've done video blogging for years, and it's served us very well. In fact, you and I both do a lot of coaching. We get deals because we're on camera and people feel like they can trust us. But we also get our videos done in a matter of minutes. We don't sit there doing takes 7, 8, 9, and 10 and editing them all together unless we're doing something very important. We just get it out there, and that's the personal branding, because we understand that we're lucky to get somebody's attention, full undivided attention, for a couple of minutes at best. So just put a lot of it out there, even if some of it's repeating, some of it's already in a paid product you're offering and now you're giving it away for free. It doesn't matter. The chances of them actually seeing that stuff or even recognizing the difference between the two is slim. The important thing is getting it out there, and in as many forms as possible: written, video, audio, presenting, doing talks. I like your suggestion of photos. I want to do more of that myself. All of that will lead to personal branding, and obviously makes your pre-launch generating buzz a lot easier. Anything to add before we close off?
No, I think that I think I just wanted to say it one more time, that you can't do this enough. You can't put yourself out there enough. It's as the person doing it, it sometimes seems like too much, but it never is.
Yeah. Well, and actually, as a second closing off point, I know your book, a lot of your ideas came from successful blog posts. You were able, because you've done this for so long, you were able to go back and, this blog post had 74 comments. The other one had 4 or whatever, right? So that's a topic I'm going to write about. And I think, what would you say, like over half of your chapters came from video blog posts? Inspired by, at least?
Yeah, the majority of them were inspired by blog posts I had already done that had a lot of engagement, made it a lot easier to figure out what I was going to do. So by branding myself, I actually had figured out which of the topics I talked about that were the most, that resonated the most with people.
Amazing. So that's your takeaway for this video, is to start doing more branding and putting more stuff out there, and then watch for the reaction of your audience. Do more of that. We'll see you in video number 9.